So it's time to start. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody, depending on where you are. I'm Badr Benjloun, happy to meet you again in this new webinar of the INRA Webinar series dedicated to discuss trends and innovation in agriculture. I would like to welcome all the participants from different countries for taking the time to attend this webinar, and I'm looking forward to their potential inputs and comments during the Q&A session. Before going further in this session, I would like to ask you all to mention your full names and affiliation on the participant list. Participants who are not identified at all will be locked off in 5 minutes. Please also make sure your mics are off throughout the session, unless you are given the floor to speak during the Q&A session. Thanks for your understanding. Before introducing our panel of speakers from CIP and the topic of this webinar, I would like to mention that we will have today 4 main presentations given by 3 colleagues from CIP. The first talk will last 5 minutes and the 3 others will take 12 minutes each. Then we will have the Q&A session that will last around 15 minutes. For the questions, please put them on the chat dashboard as the main presentation progresses. Participants will also be given the chance to ask questions or provide comments early by raising their electronic hands during the Q&A session. Questions can be asked in English or French. Now I will have the pleasure to introduce our guest speakers and the topic of our webinar. Our guest speakers are from the International Potato Center, which is an organization that was founded in 1971 as a research for development organization with a focus on potato, sweet potato, and Andean roots and tubers. It delivers innovative science-based solutions to enhance access to affordable, nutritious food, foster inclusive, sustainable business and employment growth, and drive the climate resilience of root and tuber agri-food systems. Headquartered in Lima, in Peru, CIP has a research presence in more than 20 countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. So the first speaker is Dr. Jorge Andrade Piedra. He's a plant pathologist at the International Potato Center based in Lima, Peru. He specializes in potato seed systems and late blight epidemiology with more than 20 years of experience in the Andes and several countries in Africa and Asia. Jorge holds a PhD in plant pathology from Cornell University in New York. The second speaker is Dr. Thiago Mendes, holds a PhD in genetics and breeding with solid experience on plant breeding, strategies, statistics analysis, mixed models, quantitative genetics, and extensive field experience establishing, managing, and collecting data in field experiments. He leads the effort on potato breeding innovation for Africa based in Nairobi, in Kenya. The third one is Dr. Srinivasulu Rajendran, also known as Srini, holds a PhD in agricultural economics from India. He serves as an agricultural economist at CIP, CGIAR, based in Kampala, in Uganda. Srini specializes in seed systems for roots, tubers, and bananas, focusing on seed business development with 19 years of expertise in national CGIAR and UN organizations in Asia and Africa. Their talks are titled Potato and Sweet Potato Breeding and Seed Systems, Contributions from the International Potato Center in Africa. Dr. Jorge, Thiago, and Srini, we are looking forward to listening to you and knowing more about this exciting topic. The floor is yours, Jorge. You are muted. Please, your mic. You're still muted. You're still Hello?
Hello. Okay. Sorry for that.
Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Jorge Andrade. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yeah, make it full
Presentation
screen.
mode. Okay, full screen.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, Badar, for the invitation and for introducing us, three speakers that we are going to deliver this webinar today. So as Badar was mentioning, the title of this webinar is Potato and Sweet Potato Breeding and Seed Systems, Contributions from CIP in Africa. The main focus will be potato, but we're also going to talk something about sweet potato because we specialize in these two crops and other roots and tubers. So very happy to be here and thanks for the invitation. So this is the outline for the presentation. I will introduce the CG and the CIP, just for you to understand a little bit more the context. Then we will have a presentation about breeding from Tiago Mendes, our breeder. Then I will talk something about seed systems, but focusing mainly on technologies, rapid multiplication technologies, diagnostic technologies. And then Zrini, he will talk about seed systems, but socioeconomic aspects. So let me start. The first section is about the introduction about CG and CIP. So as you probably know, CIP is one of the 14 members of the CGIAR. We are based in Lima, in Peru, and we are closely collaborating at the moment with ICARDA, for example, in Central Asia, and also we want to start working in Morocco. So that is why this webinar is important. As you can see, we have these 14 centers disseminated around the globe. They work basically with the basic staples for humanity. So CIMIT, for example, in Mexico, they work with the wheat and maize. We work with potatoes and sweet potatoes. ILRI works with livestock, etc., etc. So CIP is one of the CG system. So this CG system fills a unique global niche. We are the largest agricultural research network. We have global presence in 4 continents, over 9,000 staff from over 120 nationalities, local presence in 90 countries, more than 3,000 partners, 50 years experience, and tenfold return on investment. So we are truly a global organization with a mandate of improving research for development for agriculture. Moving towards now CIP vision and mission. The vision, the future we aspire, is the sustainable agriculture in a climate crisis, improving the quality of life of people in the global south. So that is our vision, and the mission is to share the benefits of root and tuber crops and their agri-food systems to address the climate, nutrition, and poverty challenges of the future through equitable partnerships and science-based innovations. So we are basically a science-based organization. We do science and we translate that science into technologies that can be adopted by farmers. And we work with many, many partners around the world. So we have our headquarters in Peru. We have our regional office in Quito, in Ecuador, another regional office in Nairobi, in Kenya, also in India and in China. We are in over 20 countries, over 500 staff, over 40 nationalities, around 70 partners, 99 projects, and around 50 donors. So we are also a truly global organization. You can see on the left the countries that we are operating at the moment. So at the moment we are having a new structure. Actually, we just finished our strategic plan for 2030, and we are now focusing on these 4 science goals: biodiversity with our gene bank, crop improvement, mainly breeding and seed systems, urban food systems, we're working with the urban agriculture, and regenerative agriculture. So these are the 4 topics, the main topics that we covered in CIP. So that's it for me. I will ask my colleague Tiago Mendes, potato breeder, to continue the presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, George. Thank you all for this invitation. We're very happy to be part of this conversation about breeding and about CIP. So I'll be talking to you about pre-breeding and breeding. It's going to be some few slides. For sure that we will need more time to discuss deep about what we have done in potato. Yeah, but let's start. Can move to the next one. So George, you were controlling the presentation?
Yes, something's happening. Okay.
Okay. So the first thing that I would like to highlight is the pre-breeding work we have. And of course, the pre-breeding, it's pretty much attached to what we are doing in terms of breeding. So we have these 4 major traits that you've been working with: bacterial wilt, drought, late blight, and also late blight, but also now towards like the participatory variety selection. So you can see the number of species that we work with. On the bottom, you can see a QR code. If you use your cell phone for it, so you're gonna go through like a website where you can get to know more about this project. So this is just like a photo to show you what we have done in terms of drought, screening wild material, right? So it may not look as a potato because you see those tiny tubers and even the leaves, the root system, but this is like looking for some, I would say, innovative genes that could help us on the commercial crop, on increasing the level of drought resistance. So this was a work that we have done on screening several species. In this case here is Solano gracile forms. Can go to next. So here is also a place that you can check more information about what we have done on crop wide relatives. Nice story that we capture from the Andes. If you want to know more about the Andes, about potato in the Andes, you can just click on it or just browse. I mean, can look at it. There is no QR code here, but you can just browse for this potato for changing climate. You're going to get this web page with a nice story about our work in the Andes and about the diversity we have available on potato. I strongly recommend you have a look at it. Nice work done. So now let's move into like breeding. So have a look on key traits and the strategy we have in our breeding operation at CIP. So I'll be talking, of course, focuses on potato, but we are like one breeding group in 2 crops. So the 2 crops are potato and sweet potato. So as you see, the numbers, the countries where are, let's say, the headquarters, from where we are breeding. So in case of potato, we have Kenya here, where is the sort of, for now, the hub for breeding, and with a major targets in the highlands of Africa. And potato and sweet potato, as you can see, the other countries, we have sweet potato in Mozambique, Uganda, and also in the headquarters. And we have, aside of it, we have another group which is work on quality nutrition, data management, and also discovery. So at CIP, our major objective is to develop like a stable yield of nutritional varieties across a diverse environment. This graphic gives us like somehow a sense of what does it mean, right? So you see in this line, like in blue. So you see that it represents a commercial variety, sort of saying the European variety in Africa, right? And the other lines, so my gosh, I'm forgetting the colors. The other line represents our variety. You can see that our variety is way more stable when it goes from stressful environment to good environment. So it's most of the case here in Africa, it's related, especially in the highlands, it's related to the resistance to late blight. We have seen over many years how stable our clones are, and also the CIP varieties that were released in the region. So they deliver consistent yield across like all the environments, good and bad environments. So that's one of the strengths of our gene pool. You go to next. So thinking about the breeding key drivers, no, of course, if we had more time, we could discuss about target product profile, market segments, and even target population environment. But just to give you like a big picture, so of the breeding key drivers, we have the heat stress tolerance, in particular, the ability to maintain tuber growth and initiation under high temperature, drought tolerance, such as water use efficiency, fast growth and early maturity, and also disease resistance, adapting to diseases spreading into the new areas. So major focus, especially now on the highlands for late blight. So virus as well. So, and then short phrase, early cultivars with tolerance to abiotic stress could help adapt the potato to the climate change. This is what we are facing right now, right? So quick overview from, the target population environment. So if we click next, we're going to see that this is the tropical zone to where our gene pool is majorly adapted, right? I would say in the highlands. But then if you look into the subtropical lowlands, the yellow one, that's what mostly go to the Northern Africa. So then we have another gene pool for it. For the ones that we are now selecting breeding here in Kenya, it's majorly targeting this area, right? So the highlands. We have a slide ahead, so then we can have a look onto the major gene pools that CIP is working with that is targeting like different agroecologies. So just very quickly about the potato breeding cycle. So it's pretty much starting with the cross, going to evaluation, and then a selection process, and then selection, right? So then this is a continuous process, right? So we can either do the crosses every year and have like observation trial, preliminary trials, intermediate trials, and advanced trials every year. But we can also do the crosses every other 5 years, for instance, when you finish the whole cycle. So those are the options. So this is pretty much the typical potato breeding cycle. So now just like a quick overview on what we have in our African highland pipeline. For now, it's a very modest number. So we are starting like our observation trials with like 5,000 seedlings, and then moving towards like advanced trial with 20 clones. So we are making crosses every year, and we're opening these 5,000 seedlings every year as well. So in the sort of like what we call cohort structure, where we make crosses every year, and therefore we are constantly selecting and recycling parents. And the materials that we have selected so far, so they are available for international distribution, especially in Africa, because they are local adapted to Africa. And yeah, we have a number of materials now that is going to be uploaded on what's so-called potato catalog that is going to be online very soon. So this is like a publication that we just published this year, 2023, like early January. You can have a look and learn more about the potato and sweet potato breeding at CIP. So you see on this picture here, I know from what were the, let's say, the gene pool history, sort of saying, and what are the germplasm we have used to form the particular gene pool. If we look at to the bottom right, you're going to see the population that we developed for Africa, especially for sub-Saharan Africa. In the case of I usually say highlands Africa, right? So we start like not many years ago. So now we are moving with this population. But if you look across, you're going to see also on the top the lowland tropical virus resistance. This is most likely the gene pool that will adapt better to, let's say, to the conditions of Northern Africa. And then we have another population in green, so more or less in the middle, where we have what we call LB80T, which is late blight and heat tolerant. So, and with those different populations crossing between them, they are derived in others, depend on, let's say, the goal or the target environment that you're breeding for. I recommend you just have a look into this paper, quite interesting. And if you have any question, you can always reach us out. Here, just some photos for you to see in terms of breeding and field perspective, what we have done. So from the drought, for instance, you can see the first picture, drought trial. So one side like full irrigated and the other side not irrigated at all. So in the middle, a trial under heat conditions. So and on the right, you can see also one material that was selected for drought. You can clearly see the differences of the materials, right? So here, another picture that we show the selection that we do for late blight here in the hub for African Kenya. So on the top, this was like around like 60 days. You can see flowering happening. And just like 10 days later, this is the photo on the bottom. And you can see that late blight hit some of the clones. So Actually, here we have a line of 10 plants representing one clone. It's a bit like you cannot see the divisions because the plants are quite, tall at this time. But anyway, so you can see that on the border, some plants or some lines that have survived. By the way, these are trials that we don't spray at all. Is really on the popular selection the most resistant clones to late blight. So also here, just like pictures from our trials here in Kenya. So we see on the border, like where we are implementing our trials, and then some photos that you see the progress of the trials in, this bigger picture on the left, on the top left, so you can see also different colors, which means like different clones. These clones are in more advanced stage. That's why we have like these large plots, but it can give you like an idea how we are doing breeding in Africa. So this is another picture. So the harvesting time, you can see each line representing planting line, right? So 10 tubers representing one clone, and then you can see the whole field spread around. So this shows the harvesting time. Also, just as an example. And this is my last slide. So also just to show some of the tubers, some of the most advanced clones that we have developed. Well, we can certainly talk more about it, especially when it comes to the traits combination that is required for a given country or given market, right? But so far, those are the materials resistant to late blight, some level of tolerance to heat and drought as well. Thank you. So now I'll give the floor to George again.
Okay, thank you very much, Thiago. Really nice presentation. Okay, so now we are switching to seed system. So basically, when the breeders finish the breeding pipeline, the breeding process, the next challenge is to disseminate these improved varieties. So the seed systems are very important for that. So I will focus on technologies, and then my colleague Zrini will talk about socioeconomics about seed systems, okay? So this is the variety release registration process. It's quite standard. We start with the identification of advanced clones, materials, cultivars. We do on-station trial, multi-locational trials, on-farm trials, and finally the nomination to technical subcommittees, depending on the country. But basically, this is the process that we follow to release a variety, but it takes a lot of time, at least 3 years. So we also develop variety catalogs for the variety. So this is an example from Uganda. You can see here the catalog with 29 potato and 31 sweet potato improved varieties. So this is very important for partners to understand the genetics that are available for each of the countries. And we are developing these catalogs constantly. So let me go a little bit, explain a little bit about the seed value chain and the challenge that we have. So this is a very simplistic representation of a seed value chain. We start with plant genetic resources, our gene bank basically, then the breeding process as explained by Thiago, early generation seed, that means in vitro plants, mini tubers, and then the decentralized multiplication with the registered seed producers, farmer and trader use, and finally the market consumers. So for the production of mini tubers and cuttings, I'm going to describe in more detail the cuttings. We use greenhouses. Then the field multiplication, this is the producing the pre-basic seed, certified 1 and 2, and the clean seed basically is what we want to produce, certified seed. And what we see based on our experience is that one of the weakest link is the production of early generation seed. So it is because the infrastructure is costly. We need greenhouses, we need labs, we need people who understand, who know about the technologies. It's very labor intensive, and it's public sector driven at the moment in most developing countries. So for addressing this issue, we have several technologies for producing early generation seed, mini tubers, starting with a conventional technique using substrate with this yield 5 to 8 tubers per plant. We also have hydroponics using sand with 8 to 10 tubers per plant, depending on the genotype. We have deep water. It increases the number of mini tubers. and aeroponics, which is the technology, the most advanced technology, I would say, but at the same time, it has several challenges for farmers in developing countries. But in any case, we have these technologies to address the issue of the production of early generation seed. And now this is it's not a new technology. This was developed in Vietnam several years ago, but now it's being adapted and being used in several countries in Africa and also in India. It started with the production of tissue culture plants. Then these are transplanted into substrate to produce mother plants. And then we harvest cuttings, and these cuttings are rooted in substrate. And these rooted cuttings are transplanted directly into the field. So what we do is we save a lot of time, because instead of producing mini tubers, we go directly from in vitro cuttings to the field. So you can see here, this is the process that we followed in Nigeria, where we were able to produce from, in less than 3 years, we went from producing TC plants to almost 500,000 tubers using this RAC technology, the rapid rooted apical cutting. So this is an example of the kind of technologies that we use, depending on the context, depending on the partners, to improve the production of mini tubers, and at the end, improve the production of certified seed. So this is an example for sweet potato. We also have technologies to improve the production of seed for sweet potato. This is called the Triple S technology. It basically uses the roots of sweet potato. They are stored under these conditions, and farmers can then use the roots to produce vines and start the multiplication process again. We also work on diagnostics. This is very important because, as you probably know, potato and sweet potato are vegetatively propagated crops. So there are many pests and diseases, especially virus, for example, seed-borne diseases. So when we produce certified seed, we really need to be sure of the quality, the health quality of this seed. So for this, we need diagnostics. So we have a new generation of diagnostics, moving from ELISA, from antibodies to molecular techniques that can be applied directly into the fields. So this is a LAMP, for example, loop-mediated isothermal amplification. It's being used now in several countries in Africa. So that is a key entry point also for improving the seed systems. Also, we are working with artificial intelligence and cell phone pictures to help farmers to identify diseases and take action. So, for example, this is it's called Nuru, and this is being used to detect late blight and also viral diseases in sweet potato. So this is an ongoing process, but I think the future is using more and more artificial intelligence to help us identify symptoms of disease. And finally, we have a collection of methodologies. Rini is going to talk more about these methodologies, but we have developed over 8 years a collection of different methodologies to understand and improve seed systems. So I encourage you to go to this link and check this toolbox, because it has a lot of information for each of the methodologies that we have to improve seed systems. We have a lot of documentation, description sheets, user guides, case studies, peer review publication, etc. So please have a look at it. So with this, I finish my presentation. I invite my colleague Zrini to continue talking about socioeconomic aspects of seed systems. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Thank you. Thanks to all. I mean, just moving forward, Ray, can you just change the slide, the next slide? Ray, the next slide. Yeah, I mean, the socioeconomics team at CIP is much bigger. In fact, we work across value chain. So I'll be talking about the expertise that are involved within the seed system component. However, our socioeconomics do work beyond seed system along the value chain until towards the end of the consumption. So here in this case, if you just classify our socioeconomics into different categories, we have a very hardcore economics that we have. We also have a business entrepreneurship and management skills, and then we also have a value chain specialist, and then we have a gender specialist, nutrition specialist. So we all, and then the digital agricultures. So we work together. And what I'm going to present today was how the socioeconomic team that contributed in strengthening the RTP seed system in Africa. So next slide, hooray. So the good thing, he has he has talked about few technologies, and I'm going to talk about how we assist our scientists in our center. So for example, he talked about rooted apical cuttings, and our role is to make sure that it's not introducing the technology itself is beneficial, but it is most important to understand whether it is cost-effective technologies or not. So we have done the cost benefit analysis to ensure that the technologies are or cost effective. There are a couple of publications that are published as well. So along with that, we also done research on looking at how this technology is contributing in strengthening the seed business. So we also closely work with the private industry and roll out these innovations and make sure that these innovations are able to scale out. So there's another one here we talked about, he touched upon this diffused light store, where you store the potatoes seed, the potato seed, and then see whether it can be used during the planting seasons. And it also can be stored where potatoes as well. So the idea here is to make sure that you are able to access a seed during the planting season. So here also we have ensured, we have tested the cost effectiveness and ensured that these technologies are whatever we have introduced is more cost effective. And next slide, Hooray. And further, there are a couple of more technologies that are introduced for sweet potato. The previous one that you saw for very specific to potato, and there are technologies for sweet potato too here. It's called sandphonic technologies, and the idea here is to increase the multiplication rate in the seed value in the seed production, and that reduces the time, the cycle, the duration of seed production in the seed value chain, and that ensures that the affordability of quality seeds to the farmers is more affordable to the farmers, because often there was an argument that the quality seed is quite expensive, it may not be affordable. So looking at from the supply side, how do we ensure that the technologies are contributing on the accessibility of quality seeds? So there are studies were done from the demand side. I will be talking about shortly in the following slides. And we also, as Hooray has pointed out in his initial slide, and the seed value chain, there is a break, there is a disconnection between the upstream and the downstream of the seed value chain. So particularly on the early generation seed production. So we, in Africa, a majority of the early generation seed productions are dominated by the public sectors, and the challenge is to sustain the productions. So how do we ensure that we should be able to sustain the early generation seed production? So we have introduced some of the business models and trying to ensure that these are more sustainable. So the next slide, Hooray. And there are some tools in the business management tools that we have been introduced. As you know, that the idea was to not only just to increase the seed productions and also having a cost-effective seed, but it's also important to ensure that we should empower the seed entrepreneurs. So particularly in the RTP context, in the root and tubers banana context, in the downstream of the seed value chain, it's normally dominated by farmer-led seed entrepreneurs, and they required a strong financial and business skills. So we have developed a few business management tools that can assist the farmer entrepreneurs to strengthen their seed business. And on the upstream in the seed value chain, the biggest challenge was to measure the requirement of seed that is supposed to be met the national demand. So we have also developed a tool called the seed projection tool, seed requirement estimates tool, where you try to put some set of assumptions, and it gives you the kind of required seed you're supposed to produce, you start with. So this is something very unique and innovative in this domain. Next slide. And then, as I said, we have an entrepreneur and agribusiness skill management expertise, and the one of the key activities that we also do is empowering the farmers with agribusiness skills. And we have trained several seed producers across sub-Saharan Africa, and particularly we use the trainers of trainer method, where the trainers will go back and train the farmers. So the most of the trainings are more pictorial trainings that will help farmers to also execute the skills in a better way. The next slide. So another approach that we have followed, mapping out the seed producers, one of the biggest challenge is to identify the quality, the certified seed producers across nations. So just to give you one example here for the potato, sweet potato case in Uganda, so we have mapped out the seed producers across country, and we also developed a sweet potato knowledge portal where you will have access to these informations in digital form. And this is going to be more upgraded in the digital format, where if farmers like to access the seed producers, they should be able to have this information in handy. And these are the seed producers are certified, and they have been trained by the extension officers, and where they have been trained by us, in fact. So the next slide. And further, there's another domain that we have done quite a lot of work on, estimating at the macro level economics. We have done some estimation on return on investment. Especially, there are a lot of donors are investing their money in seed sectors, and we wanted to understand what is the return on investment. So, for example, I can show you those publications on your right-hand side. We have estimated return on investment by the donors in Malawi for the potato seed sectors. So we also have expertise on behavioral economics, where there are nudges, interventions being carried out, and to ensure that there's adoption of improved varieties are prevalent, in fact. So there are several nudges being introduced and tested, and it is being carried out by some of our economics at CIP. So there are some publications and how these nudges were actually, how these nudges are influencing on their willingness to pay or on the demand for quality seeds. So we also conducted adoption definitions of these technologies. Technologies has been introduced by scientists, where one of the challenging tasks from the demand side is adoption of these technologies. So it is a key to understand what are the factors that influences on this adoption of these new technologies. Excuse me, how the technologies are diffused from farmer to farmers. So we also looked at those diffusion process using some of our the adoption theories. So the fourth one is more on policy side. We worked closely with national partners, where we involved on seed standards and regulations for vegetatively propagated crops. So most of the seed standards are mainly applicable for major cereals and crops. So the VPC is a very new the seed standards for VPCs are pretty new. And we have done quite a lot of work on that, the government, and to ensure that they do have appropriate seed standards and regulations. And we also looked at the different management, the crop management. One of the management was crop rotations with, for example, sweet potato and rice. But when we were looking at these, we looked at from the economics point of view, whether this crop rotation is really helping from the economics point of view, apart from the agronomic side. The next slide. So as Ray has pointed out in the initial stage, there is a disconnection between the upstream and downstream. And the most important task for us is to, how do I get the seed delivery system in place from the supply side perspective? So we were trying to understand from the seed acquisitions and the provisions point of view, and then how does it works, and how the upstream and downstream seed value can be interlinked. So we try to intervene in a various stages in the seed value chains. You can see from the top, it is basically, for example, this is in the Kenyan context, Tanzanian context, where Tanzanians are sourced their really the breeding material from KFIS, and then the Tanzanian Agriculture Research Institute trying to multiply more early generation seed, and then they connect with the farmers association. So we built a kind of a commercial seed producers, where they will have a direct connection with this National Agriculture Research Institute. And the idea was to make sure that we empower these commercial seed producers, and so that they should able to provide access to the root producers. It's like more like a semi-formal system that connects more on the upstream of the seed value chain and the downstream of the seed value chain. So there are a lot of other intervention that strengthen these linkages, in fact. The next slide. And on top of that, we also have a gender expertise, and also there's a consumer preference analysis that supports the breeders. In fact, as Thiago has pointed out, that the product profile market segment is they need inputs from us. And of course, the team, as I said, beyond a seed value chain, there are teams also working, but looking at the final product, the roots, tubers, and they work with the traders, they work with the consumers, they provide these inputs to us, and that inputs are extremely useful in the seed system also, and we compile those inputs and then we give it to the breeders. So we work in hand, both seed system expertise as well as we work with the social scientists who work for the final product too. The next slide. So I mean, apart from the market research for the final product, we also look at market research for the seed system. So one of the example that we do understand the preferred varieties and why do the particular varieties were preferred, and these varieties were can be marketed or not. If we are marketing, if we can market these varieties, what should be the demand look like, and how should I fix the price for these products? So what are the quality, how this particular quality quality attributes can contribute on the demand side. So there are some market research were also being carried out in this context. Next slide. So the last slide here is basically the nutritional component. Of course, this nutritional and behavioral change component is involved in the end chain of the product. But then often, sometime in a humanitarian context, there is a need for providing the nutritional interventions along with, for example, if you are doing the seed interventions and distributing the seed and asking them to adopt the varieties, it is also, there's a studies has proven that if you are giving the nutritional intervention and if you're giving the importance of nutritional value of that particular varieties, the adoption of that particular varieties are pretty higher. So whenever we disseminate varieties and we also package them package them with the nutritional component and share this information with the farmers, so that it empower the farmers, and as well as it provide access to the farmers' nutritional product as well. Yeah, thank you. Next slide. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Rini. Thank you, Thiago. Back to you, Badar. We are ready to take questions or comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for these brilliant and complementary presentations. So the first after the presentation of the CIP organization, the second presentation gave us the breeding program, described the breeding program. The third one was focusing on seed system and the technologies that are made available for the program of CIP. And the last one about socioeconomy. So I don't see, now we are moving to the Q&A session. I don't see any question from the chat until now. So waiting for this first question, I see your diagnostic, Jorge, it's about the presentation of Jorge. I see your diagnostic tools. You are using LAMP technology to make diagnostic for the seed. Can you explain more about how you are using this technology? Because yeah, it's used in many fields, but I'm interested to know more about the use of this technology in your field.
Okay, thank you, Badar. Yes, we are starting to use this technology with several partners in several countries, and the idea is basically to speed up the diagnostic process, because we usually use the ELISA test based on antibodies. So with these technologies, we can take the samples and process the sample directly into the field. So for the NPPO, the National Plant Protection Organizations, who take care and inspect these fields, it's easier if they just take the samples and process the samples in the field. So the results are much quicker. Yeah, that's the purpose, and also the cost. The cost is lower than the ELISA tests. That's the main point.
Thank you. I see a question from Juan Carlos Betoni. He say congratulations on the great and important work that you are doing. He's asking what technique are currently used to produce high quality seed tubers. He's talking about virus eradication.
Yeah, we're still using thermotherapy, basically. So if we have a variety that is infected with viruses, we basically use thermotherapy at the moment. I understand that in our gene bank, there are some research on this, but at the moment, the main technology for making these plants free of viruses is thermotherapy, yeah, in vitro.
Okay. So waiting for another question from the audience. How you can see your work can be developed in North Africa, for example, because until now you don't work in this region. How we can improve this? How we can include this work or include this region in your program?
Okay, let me have a first try, and then I'll ask also my colleagues Tiago and Zerini. I think yes, North Africa is relatively new to us. We were active in Egypt several years ago. We had an office in Egypt, so we are now starting to operate also in that country. And Morocco, I think, is also a nice place to restart the conversation. So I think this webinar is the first step into these potential collaborative projects with INRA in Morocco. So we are very happy to start operating probably in your country. Yeah. Tiago, Zerini, if you want something to add, please go ahead.
George, I think you just mentioned everything related to it. And of course, if you want to discuss more technical points, we can get into like how we could set up like a gene pool for that. Luckily, I think CIP over the many years, we've been working on lowland tropical, that we have gene pools that could kind of easily set up like a gene pool for that region. And of course, we just need to create this momentum where we have local partners and interested to work with and fundraise for it. I mean, luckily we have germplasm that we could contribute to speed up this process of developing varieties for those conditions.
Just to maybe add on, I see that after having this breeding system, I mean, we need to also have a seed delivery system. So given our experience, we should be able to build a very clear seed delivery system. And as I mentioned that we work beyond seed as well. We have expertise people, those who work beyond seed system. So we can also use those expertise and to develop kind of what is happening in the current situations and how that can contribute to build your seed system and breeding program too. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Trini. Thank you, Tiago. Back to you, Badar.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have to plan a roadmap on this collaboration, maybe between, I'm talking about Morocco, maybe Morocco and CIP, and we can start by defining next steps after this webinar, maybe. Okay. With the specialists, my colleagues are in the audience, they can be interested in this also. So I have a question from the chat from Mickey Beeb Million from Ethiopia, and he's a plant biotechnology researcher. Ethiopia is the home and center of origin for many root and tuber crops. In fact, potato and sweet potato are largely produced in southern Ethiopia, and the majority of the population in the region mainly rely on roots and tuber crops. So what are the CIP's future plans for that region? The second part, Ethiopia has diverse agroecology for adaptation practices of new released varieties. That's why Ethiopia is not considered as a breeding site. Who can answer?
Tiago, do you want to take that question?
Oh, I'm not sure if I got the first part of the question, but I think, look, in terms of diversity of environment, Kenya also offer the same, right? So, and then it's just the same for other aspects as well that we can discuss. I think both countries would be an amazing place for any breeding operation. But just to highlight, right now we are operating in a network, breeding network. So we have all those countries together with us. So, and of course, a lot of the activities that we're running in Kenya, so it's also happening in Ethiopia. And it's gonna happen also beyond those countries, depends on the interest of the national research organizations in that country. So we are pretty much open for any collaboration that wants to work on potato and sweet potato in Africa. And we'll be supporting with like a number of things, right? From, let's say, methods, or helping on designing the strategy, or helping on developing high throughput tools, or assisted market selection, or genomic selection, whatever that the country wants to take as a technology to be able to support. And I agree, in the case of Ethiopia, it's just an amazing case that we could explore the diversity that we have in terms of agroecology to speed up breeding, or even to do a more efficient breeding for the region. Beyond that, of course, we know the need of the different regions in Africa for new varieties, and beyond that, also for new varieties that will cope with the changing climate that we are facing nowadays.
Thank you, Diego. Back to you, Badr.
Okay, thank you. My colleague Gabun Fatima from INRA, she's asking about the experimental design used in the breeding program.
Diego? Do you want to take that question, Thiago? Is the experimental layouts designs for breeding?
So can you repeat the question, please? Again, sorry.
What about experimental design used in the breeding program?
Oh, that's a great question. I would be happy, to do like a presentation in much more details about everything we do in terms of optimize our breeding program. But right now we're using row column design. And then, of course, within the row column design, we have some specifications that we do. But basically, we have a spatial control. In overall, also, we use mixed modeling for analysis, as REMO, and that's how we are doing that. But basically, we are just using spatial control across whatever design you can use. Spatial control, it's the must in our trials.
Thank you, Thiago.
I think we may organize a deeper presentations of each aspect. Maybe we can think about a dedicated webinar mini series on potato. Great. We can ask you to contribute.
Great, I'll be happy.
Okay, Mickey Bib Million from Ethiopia, thank you. I would rather, he's saying, I would rather suggest the Regional Research Institute have direct contact with the CIP Coordinating Center. He's suggesting his contact and he can get in touch with you. I suppose he can get in touch with you, Jorge.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, anytime. Yeah, so I can put my email in the chat box.
Yeah, perfect. It will be great. So a student, Ada Garba Nasiru, he's thankful for the wonderful presentation. He's asking for the PPT you are using.
Yeah, so but we were going to send you the presentation so you can distribute to the attendants.
Okay, and we will share the recording also for the webinar. I think it's okay for everybody. I think we are getting now in the end of this webinar. It was very rich, but it was also very short. I think it will be very useful, this mini series of webinars detailing every aspect that you were talking about. I think this is a first step. We will get into the other ones. So as we move toward the end of this webinar, I would like to mention that to the audience that when you leave the webinar, you will get directed to a survey. Please use it to provide us with your assessment. It will be helpful for future improvements. You can also request your certificate of attendance through this link. So my colleague Butaina is going to share the coming webinar. It will be entitled Navigating Nature, IAA's Insight into Weather Modification, which will present the effort of a company from Romania to reduce the impact of destructive meteorological phenomena. It will be given by Ali Abshayev from this company. So it will be organized on the 22 February at 10 a.m. Morocco time. Please note it in your agenda. So also speaking for myself and on behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank very much our guest speakers, Jorge, Thiago, and Srini, for their time, availability in the preparation of today's webinar, and for sharing with us their deep knowledge and experience. I would like to thank also Dr. Fawzi Bkawi, the director of INRA, for suggesting such a great webinar. My thanks go also to the participants and extend especially to my colleagues Butaina Abidou, Uthman Sabata, Iman Tamil Alamir, Dati Razi, Nordin Bahri, and Abdelaziz Yasri, and all the scientific committee of the INRA webinar series for their crucial contribution in the organization of this series. Colleagues from CIP, would you like to say something at the end, please?
Just to thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to continue the conversation to see how to start collaborating with you. Yeah, I think that's very important for us. Thiago, Srini, please, if you have something to add.
Same here, Huri. Thank you. And I'm extremely happy to for the organizer organizing this event. We look forward to our collaboration. Yeah.
Great. Same here. Thank you so much. All the best to everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, colleagues. Have a good evening and good afternoon.
3 weeks. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.